Where do the reports come from? Did you get an initial?
One PodVader.
That's football.
Every angle of the NFL covered.
All that kind of stuff, I get it.
This,
no question about it,
is Next Fan Up.
We're going to unleash hell here in December.
Hello and welcome to the Thursday Night Football Preview Special from Next Fan Up. It's not really special. Well, it is a little special because I am not alone this week. This week, well, we'll just call it a super fan battle. What the heck? I have one of the super fans involved in this week's battle as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visit the Chicago Bears, and the laugh you heard was that of the jovial Chicago Tom. Although, I don't know how jovial you actually are, Tom.
Yes, I'm so happy to be subjecting the nation to the Bears offense in prime time once again.
All right. If you just want to start right there, let's start with what was the difference between Big Nick energy last week and Big Nick energy the week before?
Well, the key word, as you so eloquently put it, was energy. The week before, there was energy. They made a quarterback change, and everybody perked up, and the team performed a little bit better. It was fairly obvious that Foles brought something to the field. After the team started very flat. This week, the team was flat all the way through the game. They came out flat, and they stayed flat, and they played a very sloppy game, and this time they paid for it with their first loss, which is kind of a miracle that, that was their first loss because they have not played particularly well. Foles really struggled last week. He, to my eye, and many in the Chicago media would agree with this, he looked rusty. And he did not look particularly accurate. And I think that is in large part because his timing was off. He didn't have preseason games with these guys. He didn't have an off season with these guys. And, Nick Foles he's got a lot of weaknesses to his game. He doesn't bring a whole lot special. The release is average, the accuracy is average. And, he's going to rely a lot on his timing. Getting the pass in the air before the guy comes out of his break. And that's hard to do when you have receivers that you don't know. And then the other problem is he's not particularly mobile, and he has to have good protection. And he didn't get good protection last week. The Bears offensive line was very disappointing. And I'd say between those two things, it was a very subpar performance.
Is Matt Nagy going to regret making the change when he did?
I don't know. We're all kind of waiting. Everybody wants to give Nick Foles a chance. And my sense is that at least the Bears coaching staff doesn't think that, they didn't think that it was likely that he was going to come in and just instantly be a success. I think you get the sense from them that they pretty much agree with what I just said, that they won't really know if they're going to regret it for another probably 2-3 games, because it may take that long for him to get his feet completely under him and for them to give themselves a really good chance with him. I will say that I thought Matt Nagy did the right thing by pulling him. I do not think Mitch Trubisky took enough of a step forward from last year. Certainly not what most of us had hoped. And I think that he had visions of 2019 dancing in his head, and he saw it all replaying out before his eyes again. And he decided it was time to pull the plug. I admit I didn't think he'd do it then. I was surprised that he did it in the middle of a game and that early in the season, but I would have to say I totally understand it. And no matter how Nick Foles works out, I think they're all pretty much convinced that they just weren't going to go anywhere with Trubisky at the helm for another year. So I don't think they'll regret it. It's just a question of whether Nick Foles is going to be any better.
Yeah, and I say this as an outsider looking in with no real horse in the race, although I think I've been more of a Trubisky truther than a denier. Looking at Trubisky and Foles statistically, and of course we know we can make stats say whatever we want them to, they're pretty much the exact same quarterback. Now, Trubisky played in 2.5 games and Foles has only played in 1.5 games and has already got almost as many completions and attempts in a shorter period of time, but yards per game, average per throw, touchdown to interception ratio. Really the only thing that's different between Foles and Trubisky so far is the number of sacks. Trubisky's been sacked 7 times and Foles has only been sacked once.
Yeah, well, that won't last if the offensive line doesn't perform better than they did last week. In fairness, the Bears played the Colts, and that Colts defense was a lot better than I gave them credit for. They really whipped the Bears up front in a way that they haven't been whipped all year. So maybe that was a one-game aberration. But if the Buccaneers coming up whip them up front in the same way, it'll be more than 1 sack.
I was going to make that transition. So how do you see this offense facing the Buccaneers, who, seem to be coming along now on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, it's hard to be optimistic if you're a Bears fan, and the reason is because I think one thing that we've learned over the first 4 games is that the Bears have to run the ball in order to have any success at all in offense. And if they can't run the ball, and they couldn't run it against the Colts, then they are in deep, deep trouble. And from what I've been able to gather and from what I've watched of the Buccaneers, they do a very good job of stopping the run. If they have if you want to call it a weakness, they give up a lot more passing yardage than they do relative. They're relatively strong against the run. And I don't think the passing game is going to be the Bears' strength. So it's really a question of whether the Bears can pass going into the game. It appears to be a question of whether the Bears can pass the ball enough to take advantage of what is apparently the Bucs' weakness. The other thing, they will try to run the ball. They're going to do that. And if they could run against them, then yes, they're going to have success. If they can't, then I think there's a real question about whether we're going to end up with a very boring, low-scoring game tonight or tomorrow.
I haven't looked at the injury report. I'm going to have to pull that up here in just a second. But as we sort of switch the perception from the offense to the defensive side of the Chicago Bears, we were talking before we recorded, Tom Brady really has elevated the Buccaneers from an offensive standpoint. He's throwing less interceptions than his predecessor, although maybe not so many less as we think, with 4 pick sixes in his last 6 games. Of course, that does date back to his time with New England as well. Brady, and to me, that's a matter of there wasn't a preseason. He's got to get in sync with his guys, and it does seem like he's found a new whoopee in Mike Evans.
Yeah, I think that there is, from what I've seen, there is definitely a difference in that team with Brady at quarterback. He has elevated that team and made them better offensively. You brought up the pick sixes. I have a feeling, I'm pretty sure this is right. 40-year-old quarterbacks do not like to be hit. I mean, they really, really don't. I don't think Brady is any different in that respect. He might be better, but I've watched a series of bad quarterbacks in Chicago, and some of them got up into their upper 30s, and they were a lot like some of the stuff I've seen where the older quarterbacks get rid of the ball really fast when they see the pressure coming. And some of those pick sixes might be a result of the fact that Tom Brady does not want to get hit, and he sees the blitz coming, and he gets rid of the ball really fast, and you can start to anticipate where the ball is going to go. And I have a feeling that that's what's happening there to some extent. So it's fairly obvious to me that if the Bears are going to have any success, they're going to have to get a lot of pressure on him with their front four, which on paper they should be able to do. But in reality, this season, they have not done nearly enough of. We all thought in Chicago that Robert Quinn and Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack were going to form 3 pass rushers that were just going to be a nightmare for offenses this year. And I think the Bears front office was depending upon that too, and that really has not been the case. They've gotten decent pressure, but the sacks have not come, and they have not really been game changers. And I think that one thing they're going to have to do against Brady is they're going to have to be game changers. They're going to have to hit him and make him get rid of the ball. And if they do that, they might have some success. They might get a few turnovers.
Brady never liked to get hit. It didn't matter if he was 43 or not. But I will say, on the offensive side of the ball in the injury report, looking at the top 3 wide receivers for the Bucs, all 3 of them did not practice. That being Mike Evans, Scott Miller, and Chris Godwin. So the Bucs are definitely hurting at the wide receiver position. Godwin didn't play last week, and I would probably say he's doubtful to play this week. Evans was also limited last week, but ended up playing the full game. And Scott Miller, same thing. He was a little banged up going into the game, got a little bit more banged up during the game last week, but did finish out the game. And his post-game press conference didn't seem like he was going to miss this game, but all these bumps and bruises are certainly adding up. And on a short week, there's no reason to go out and practice. Just get healthy and put your best foot forward on Thursday night. You got an X factor for this one?
Well, I'll put it out there. I think that the Bears have they think they've strengthened their team at tight end this year, and so far, I would say that has not been a strength of the team, but I would expect them to really try to get the tight ends involved. And I would say that they, as a group, will be the X factor for the game on the Bears side. If the Bears are going to have success, it's going to come through a lot of passes to the tight ends.
Let me give you a couple of useless stats. Everyone loves my useless stats, but these ones, I really like these useless stats because they are Thursday night specific. Mike Evans has 33 receptions for 469 yards, 93.8 per game, and 2 touchdowns in 5 career games on Thursday night football. Allen Robinson, your wide receiver, has 333 receiving yards, 83.3 per game, and 2 touchdowns in 4 career games on Thursday night football. Khalil Mack apparently loves playing against Tampa Bay. He recorded a sack and a forced fumble in the 2018 meeting against Tampa Bay and aims for his 3rd in a row against the Buccaneers with a sack and a forced fumble, which will be good because Khalil Mack could use some get up and go, as we were talking before the podcast.
He definitely could. I remember that game. It was a nightmare for the Buccaneers in every single way. The Bears really dominated them that game. Even Mitch Trubisky had the best game of his career. The problem is that the last time they played Tom Brady, I think he put up 50 against them. It has scarred me for life. So,
but that was a different team, Tom. That's a completely different situation.
It was the same quarterback. So we'll see what happens.
Vegas has the Buccaneers favored by 4.5 points on the road. Do you guys have fans in Chicago yet?
No, we do not have fans in the stands. I don't think it's likely to happen, to tell you the truth, this year. They're talking about it, but I don't think the city really likes the idea. And we got hit hard enough when this thing started to where they're being extremely cautious. And I don't know if we're going to see them in the stands at all this year.
I should mention that as we're recording this particular podcast, there's breaking news about Stephon Gilmore testing positive, 2 more Titans testing positive, and there's 3 games on the schedule that are in jeopardy. And quite honestly, when you look at the way that the schedule is laid out, it's not going to be as easy a fix as it was for when the Titans missed last week's game and they were able to switch around bye weeks with the Steelers. It's not going to be that easy this time. There is some concern that there could be a pause button hit. So we might be previewing a game that may not kick off this week. But right now we have to assume that all games are going to move forward as they are scheduled. The superfans have power ranked Chicago at 17, Tampa Bay at 11. So the superfans will be taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game. And honestly, Chicago, Tom, I'm going to have to agree with that assessment. And it's not anything to do with Tom Brady on the Buccaneers. I think it just has more to do with, I think the Bucs just have a little bit more firepower than the Bears at this particular point. The Bucs score 30 points a game. The Bears are only scoring 21.3. Both defenses are allowing about the same amount of points per game. The Bucs allow 23, the Bears 20.3. But the Bucs have a +2 take to giveaway ratio. The Bears have a -1. And for all of those reasons, I'm going to lean towards the Buccaneers to win this game. I don't give scores because I'm not very good at it. But if you go back and you listen to my Patriots-Chiefs superfan battle, I nailed that game despite the final score being wrong.
I would concur with your opinion. I think the Buccaneers are likely to win. Vegas has them, I think, at a 5.5 point favorite, and that's a very bad sign. And I tend to agree. I don't think the Bears are a very good team right now. And I do hope that they come out and show some more energy this week. If they do that, they'll be competitive. If they don't, then it's going to be a really bad game. So I do not blame you in the least for picking the Buccaneers. If you made me bet my life, I would take them too.
Assuming the schedule is maintained for the rest of the season, you're next at the Panthers, at the Rams, home to the Saints, at the Titans, home to the Vikings, and then a bye week before you face the Packers twice, the Vikings again, Lions, Texans, Jaguars. It looks like you're after the bye week, despite the Packers twice, looks a little bit more friendly than before the bye week.
Yeah, they're about to hit the toughest part of their schedule, I think, which should be right in the middle, right through at least one of those Packers games. No team in the NFL is exactly a cupcake, but they did not have good teams on the first half of their schedule. They played the Giants, they played the Lions, So I think that frankly, I did not think the Colts defense was going to be anywhere near as good as they actually are. I was really impressed. So they turned out to be a much tougher test than I thought. I didn't really think they'd face a really tough team until the Saints. So yeah, I think the schedule is starting to pick up. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for them in the middle. And we knew that, hopefully the team will develop and progress enough every week to where they'll stay competitive through those games.
Well, Tom, good luck to you Thursday night. Good luck to us all that the NFL season can continue the way that it is currently constructed. We will keep our eye on it. We'll have our Thursday preview show coming to you tomorrow, where it is Dad Joke Thursday. We already have one email in for dad jokes tomorrow. I know Eagles James is really looking forward to Dad Joke Thursday. I know I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I found so many websites with dad jokes. It's going to be a fantastic show tomorrow.
I can't wait.
Yes. So nextfanup@gmail.com. If you've got a favorite dad joke for Dad Joke Thursday, you can also tweet us at NFU Podcast, Facebook.com/NFU Podcast. And, tell a friend about the show. We're here. We're doing it. We're doing it at least 3 times a week, sometimes 4. So go ahead and subscribe and follow wherever great podcasts are heard. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Yeah, that was my warning to turn everything off. Here's Kofi Annan. There you have it.
Dear friends and colleagues, saying goodbye is never easy. I believe we can all feel proud of what we have done together. And through it all, you have maintained your professionalism and commitment and remained true to the spirit of the Charter. That principle.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.